So this week I was at Ken Paller's Cognitive Neuroscience Lab at Northwestern University. It's one of the only research labs that actively studies lucid dreaming, and I got to participate in a study. It was so much fun. For those that don't know, this lab is where this legendary study was done. Karen Conkley and her colleagues did a two-way communication study where they were able to talk to the lucid dreamer while they were sleeping, and the lucid dreamer sent back eye signals and muscle movements to signal that they were dreaming, and the experimenters' questions were incorporated into the dream in interesting ways. It's a really cool and legendary study that has set the stage for a lot of research being done today. I went into the lab and they hooked me up with EEG monitors, EMG monitors, and they basically studied my brain while I was sleeping and while I was lucid dreaming. It was really cool to just see how the lab works and to meet all the researchers. And it was just so much fun. I love science, I love lucid dreaming, and I get to do both at once. Wow, I'm mind blown. And it's my first time in Chicago. As you can see, the bean is very beautiful, very cute, very demure. So I want to tell you guys about the dreams that I had in the lab. They study a lot of different things. In this study, they're not actually studying how to induce lucid dreams necessarily. They were looking at how sounds are incorporated into dreams and how well we're able to tell what stage of sleep that we're in. So I would go to sleep in the lab. They would wake me up when they would detect that I'm in REM sleep and ask me what I dreamt about. And I would say my report. They would record it. And they would ask if any of the designated sounds made their way into my dreams. And while I was lucid, I was instructed to signal to the researchers that I was lucid with the left, right eye movements, as well as with sniffling. So I would be like, if I heard a certain sound, or like 3 sniffles if I heard a different sound. So I would be like, in the dream. And so while lucid, I did those sniffles, and it was recorded on the EEG data. As you can see, I'll put the picture up here. Each of those big spikes are a sniffle. And then certain lines correspond to the eye movement data, and certain lines correspond to the sniffles. It's just really cool to see EEG data and to actually see my brainwaves in action. So let's get into the dreams I had. It's very common for people to have dreams about the lab when in a lucid dream research lab. So common that I was prepared for it. I already mentally prepared myself to do reality checks when I get in the lab and stuff like that. I was praying that I have a lucid dream in the lab, because just because I'm an experienced lucid dreamer does not mean that I'm guaranteed 100% to have a lucid dream in the lab. Thankfully I did, and I successfully completed the task. So some of the dreams that I had were very interesting. This EEG setup was very heavy and not hard to sleep with necessarily, because I can sleep anywhere. I fall asleep very easily no matter what. So I wasn't too worried about that, but it definitely was making its way into my dream. And every single dream that I had in the lab, I was wearing the cap. The first few dreams were not lucid. I was wearing the cap, I was in the lab, something was going wrong, and they took me to another room to go see a presentation. And I was just like, oh well, I guess plans have changed. And then I started to realize, wait a second, I'm wearing the cap, I should do a reality check. Right as I said that, they woke me up to get the dream report. I was like, no, I was almost lucid, I almost did the task. But then they asked me what I dreamt about, so I told them. And then they were like, okay, you can go back to sleep. So I went back to sleep, attempt number 2. So this time I had a dream again where I was in the lab with all this head cap on and all this equipment. Of course, the lab looked different, and it was different people than were actually there. So it took me a second to catch on. But eventually I was like, oh yeah, this is a dream. I'm in the lab. I'm prepared for this. So I stabilize the dream, and then I do the left, right that I was instructed to do. And I tried to stay in the dream. And then I remembered the sniffling task, and so I listened out for any sounds, and I actually heard some of the sounds that they prepared me for. So I did the correct number of sniffles that corresponded to the sound while I was in the dream. And then they woke me up and they asked me, and I told them the dream. They confirmed that they received my lucid signals, which is so cool. And then I had a few more dreams, non-lucid mostly, where again in the lab with the cap set up, something going wrong. In one of them I was naked in the lab, and they were coming in to change something, and I was like, no, where's my clothes? Classic anxiety dream. And then when they woke me up from that one and they asked me to report my dream, I was a little bit embarrassed to say that, even though they were like, tell us as much detail as possible. I was like, how is this even relevant to the study? Like, I'm a little bit embarrassed to tell them this. Because when somebody says, tell me your dream in as much detail as possible, what do you mean by detail? I should have asked that clarifying question because my dreams are very detailed. Like, do you want to know every little color and shape of everything? Do you want to know every single person, what they were wearing, what's their ethnicity, what color hair they have? Because I remember that much detail. I can tell you all of that. But is it relevant to the study? Like, we'll be there for like 30 minutes of me just recounting my dream if you want every single detail. So I told them a lot of details. I left out a few minor ones because I was like, I kept saying, like, I don't know if this is important, but, the girl had brown hair and this and that. And then I kind of started to get embarrassed. Like, maybe I'm giving too much detail. So I left out the naked part. I was embarrassed. I don't know. I should have told them, but whatever. There's no way that's relevant to the study. Um, Unless there's more of the study that I didn't know about, which is very possible. So I don't know. Whoops. And to be honest, there was a lot of details that I didn't remember in the moment. Sometimes you remember more about the dream later on. So there's that. It was so much fun. It's honestly a dream come true. And I've always wanted to get involved in the research to see what's going on. And everybody was so nice in the lab. I can't wait till this study is published. I will definitely keep you guys posted and send it. I was participant number 18. I loved it. Oh, and in another one of the dreams, I had the EEG cap on. I was in the sleep chamber. They start sending me like shocking, painful signals throughout my whole body. I was like, is this part of the experiment? Like, I was not lucid. I was just like suffering in pain. And in the dream, I start like screaming. I'm like, get me out of here. Like screaming to the experimenters. I'm like, is this normal? Like, I'm in so much pain. Oh, sun. And so I'm like screaming in pain, and then they come in and like they check everything. They're like, "No, you're good. Everything's normal." I'm like, "Okay, that was really painful." And from that dream, they woke me up, and my heart was pounding so fast. I was like, like it was like I had just woken up from a nightmare. And of course, I had a lot of anxiety going into it. Unfamiliar environment, something very exciting and new. There's always going to be some nerves attached to that. So I didn't expect every dream to be peachy, but almost every dream was about the lab. Literally 95% of them, if not 100. I can't even remember one that wasn't necessarily at least with the cap equipment on, because it's definitely going to make its way into your dream. Like this whole study was about how sounds incorporate into your dreams and feelings and sensations. It makes sense that the things around me in the environment and the things that my body was sensing, like the cap and all the wires, that they made its way into my dream. My body was like, what the hell? This is not our normal sleeping environment. But yeah, I loved it. It was awesome.